A kind of battle cry from Russian President Vladimir Putin, a scathing message for the United States about Ukraine. ABC's chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz on the Russians talking tough tonight.
Tonight, joy in the streets of Moscow. Thousands strong, bellowing the Russian anthem, welcoming Crimea back to fatherland Russia. This after their leader, Vladimir Putin, basking in his moment, said Crimea will soon be theirs. We have already achieved much, he said. There is even more to do. We shall prevail because we are united. Glory to Russia. Putin blasting the United States for behaving rudely, irresponsibly, and unprofessionally in Ukraine, saying the U.S. had crossed a line. He accused America of hypocrisy, applying power against sovereign states, a clear reference to Iraq. The U.S. shot back. Secretary of State Kerry calling Putin's moves dangerous.
Nobody doubts Russia's interests in Crimea, but that doesn't legitimize just taking what you want because you want it, or because you're angry about the end of the Cold War or the end of the Soviet Union.
Putin, a former KGB officer, was shaped by the Cold War, watching his Soviet Union collapse from this to this. But now some of the nations that broke away are watching Russia's moves nervously. That's why Vice President Biden is in the region tonight, reassuring those nations, telling them the U.S. may rotate American forces to the Baltic region for expanded military exercises and training missions.
Рад быть здесь, в героическом Севастополе, в этот священный день. Уверен, что и 2014 год войдет в его летопись, как год, когда живущие здесь народы твердо определили быть вместе с Россией.
То, что произошло в Крыму сейчас, это захват территории, оккупация, без всякого предъявления санкций и войны. Здесь буквально произошло захват территории без чего-либо согласия.
Но это надо и следовало было сделать. Я россиянка. Конечно, я за Россию и считаю, что Крым только должен быть российским. Это несправедливые ошибки, там руководители и все. Крым – это Россия.
With a bleak economic future, the outlook for Crimea's youth is far from certain. Whilst there were protests in support of the revolution in Crimea, pro-Ukrainian activists who opposed Russia's annexation have been violently targeted by the new Crimea authorities.
Сегодня мы находимся в здании Киевского исполкома, где происходит выдача готовых паспортов Российской Федерации гражданам, проживающим на территории Республики Крым.
Сегодня 13-е, да, по-моему? 17-е, спасибо большое, да, 17-го. Мы пришли получить российские паспорта. Счастливы безмерно, потому что большую часть жизни мы прожили в России, а меньшую часть в Украине. Счастливы, что мы вернулись в Россию.
Ощущаю гордость, ощущаю радость, что я наконец-то пришла к себе домой и что я наконец-то жительница Российской Федерации.
Как он красивее украинского или нет? Вот украинский. Сейчас красивее, да.
И желание у них сделать снова СССР есть. Они не просто об этом как бы намекают на это, да, они выступают за это. И вы можете об этом услышать.
Власть американцев над всеми континентами и на всей планете, вот это уходит. То есть модель мира меняется. И это оптимистично. Потому что я считаю, что настанет золотой век, когда люди будут счастливы жить, да?
Поэтому это тоже очень пугает и напрягает. И я вам скажу, что я так себя чувствую, как люди чувствовали себя, не знаю, в 1939 году, в 1938, когда приходили НКВД от Сталина, да, и говорили, мы вот вас арестовываем. И я волнуюсь и переживаю, что они могут прийти и за мной.
Я русская, а это значит, во мне мятежная душа. Я русская, а это значит, другой быть просто не могу. С праздником, Севастополь! Люблю тебя! Спасибо!
This is Crimea in early 2017, nearly 3 years after the Russian takeover.
It is the day of the founders of the fatherland. In other words, a very patriotic celebration, particularly for the people of Sevastopol who use this day to celebrate their pride in Russia.
Люди не понимают, что действительно происходит. Люди думают, что мы здесь в оккупации. Как мы можем находиться в оккупации, если мы сделали свой выбор за возвращение домой, в Россию?
Нам силу дает наша верность отчизне. И наши мысли, и наше будущее должны быть с Россией.
In a controversial referendum, over 95% of Crimeans voted to join Russia in 2014. Though the annexation and the referendum are not recognized internationally, many of the Crimeans we met were eager to obtain their Russian citizenship.
Что ты россиянин, еще подтверждают наши паспорта, что мы действительно стали россиянами, настоящими.
A lot of Crimeans are hoping for a return to the peninsula's glory days, when it was known as a popular tourist destination for Soviet elites, vacationing along the Black Sea coast.
Olga Koziko welcomes Russian rule. Crimea, she says, has returned home. She chides Western leaders who disagree.
We don't understand them. Because we are already for 3 years we're in Russia. We changed everything. We changed our rules, our documents, everything. And our soul is in Russia. And I even have the T-shirt with Putin, and the words are, in Putin we trust, like in God we trust.
Svetlana Gavrilenko had opposed the annexation. But 3 years on, her perspective on Russia has changed.
They were expecting us. They were happy to have us back. Ukraine are not. They really hate us. They think everyone here is a traitor. Even if though you were ever pro-Ukrainian or you're now pro-Ukrainian, you're still a traitor because you didn't leave.
America's position hasn't changed. The White House says it expects Moscow to return Crimea.
But the Kremlin says it has a solution to the water problem, the tourist problem, and just about every other problem in the peninsula. The Kerch Bridge. We visited while construction was still ongoing.
We're standing on the biggest bridge in Russian history. It's going to be 12 miles long. It stretches all the way from Russian mainland, which is just over there, to Crimea.
President Putin triumphantly opened the mega project earlier this year.
Это замечательный результат, который делает Крым и легендарный Севастополь еще сильнее, а всех нас еще ближе друг к другу.
Now that Russia has further cemented its grip on Crimea, both physically and symbolically, we traveled to Ukraine's capital, Kiev, to meet the people still pushing for reunification.
People out here to celebrate.
Ukraina! Ukraina!
This is a very nationalistic crowd. There's a lot of far-right militias who are coming here to make their voices heard. What are you guys doing here today?
Дуже велика дата для усіх українських націоналістів. Люди прокидаються, вони повертаються до свого коріння українського. Цього року набагато більше юнаків.
Do you think that Ukraine can take Crimea back?
Неодмінно станеться, неодмінно.
The hangover of Crimea only emboldens these far-right militia groups, many of whom are actively fighting Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. where a bloody conflict has claimed over 10,000 lives since 2014. But other Ukrainians have focused on curbing the Kremlin's soft power. Ukraine is currently home to over 1/3 of Russian Orthodox churches, which are often criticized for being vessels for Putin's propaganda. But in a historic decision, Orthodox leadership finally agreed to grant the Ukrainian church independence from Moscow.
What does this mean to Ukrainian people?
I believe that this moment shows our cultural identity. It helps to unite all Ukrainians in one nation.
How did the situation with the annexation of Crimea impact what's happening now?
Ukrainian people, they are usually quite patient, but step by step Russia showing her aggression and we have to fight back.
Слово має президент України Петро Порошенко.
Це велика перемога боголюбивого українського народу над московськими демонами. Ми за місяці ще більше переконалися, що помісна церква є одним із ключових елементів, запорукою незалежності нашої держави.
This is about more than religion. And while Ukrainian parishioners attended Sunday Mass, President Putin took the news as a major blow. The Kremlin immediately denounced the church's decision and even said it would defend Russian believers if threatened in Ukraine, sparking real fears of further violence. The fear of escalating conflict rang true. Just this week, Russia shot at and seized 3 Ukrainian ships and 24 sailors who were in the shared waterway of the Kerch Strait. Moscow has maintained a geostrategic naval base on the peninsula for decades, allowing them to reach Eastern Europe, the Mediterranean, and Syria. As part of an effort to monitor the militarization in the region, Ukraine established the Ministry of Temporarily Occupied Territories and IDPs, headed by Vadim Chernysh.
So what can you tell us about any military developments that you've seen
You
on
can
the
see here 3
peninsula?
doors, for example. There are places where S-400 Triumph complex established by Russians.
So from your satellite images, you've picked
Yes.
3 new missile bases here.
Right. They can reach a lot of countries, including Middle East. They use Crimea as a military base.
So essentially, this ministry was formed in order to try and take back what Ukraine sees as occupied territories, including Crimea. What actual work are you doing to achieve those goals?
We are trying to win hearts and minds of Ukrainians who live within occupied territories.
Isn't it a bit late for that? If most people are now happy with the fact that Russia has taken Crimea?
We have been trying to support our population because they are Ukrainian citizens. Russia influence a lot. They use their secret service, they use their propaganda, bribes. They demonstrate some success in infrastructure development, and they don't want to show problems with human rights in Crimea.
Russia's abysmal human rights record has trickled down to Crimea, leading the US to announce additional sanctions in November 2018. There's almost no reliable data on what's actually going on in Crimea, and Russia holds a tight grip over all information coming out. Recently, even traveling to the peninsula has become difficult. So we wanted to catch up with Oleg Zubkov, the zookeeper, to ask if things really have become worse.
Has there been any change in atmosphere there? I mean, now that the Russians have been there for 4 years?
Вот, Крым превращается в такое, знаете, полицейское государство, военизированное государство, где военных колонн, военных машин, Крым вооружается. Понятно, что мы готовимся к какой-то 3-й мировой войне, но это происходит очень активно.
Was all this worth it?
Вот я не против России, я русский человек, я очень люблю Россию, и я также для себя уверен, что лучше, если бы Крым остался бы тогда в составе Украины. Вот, но, к сожалению, я тогда не ценил, что мы имели.